Welcome to study session 9, Synergy of Motivation and Emotion. Introduction. Stipek, 1988, suggests that there are a variety of reasons why individuals may be lacking in motivation and provides a list of specific behaviors associated with high academic achievement. This is an excellent checklist to help students develop the cognitive component of their lives. In addition, as stated previously in these materials, teacher efficacy is a powerful input variable related to student achievement. This study session will focus on the synergy between motivation and emotions. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Explain the synergy of motivation and emotions. 2. Discuss the application of motivation and emotion in human setting. Synergy of motivation and emotions. There are a variety of specific actions that teachers can take to increase motivation on classroom tasks. In general, these fall into two categories discussed below: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is when the motivation comes from internal factors to meet personal needs. We do things we do because we enjoy them, not because we have to. Intrinsic means internal or inside of yourself. When you are intrinsically motivated, you enjoy an interest, a course of study, or skill development solely for the fulfillment of education and having fun. Extrinsic motivation is when the motivation comes from external factors that are given or controlled by others. Salary or praise is a good example. This type of motivation is everywhere and frequently used within society. Features of intrinsic motivation. Explain or show why learning a particular content or skill is important. Create and/or maintain curiosity. Provide a variety of activities and sensory stimulations. Provide games and simulations. Set goals for learning. Relate learning to student needs. Help students develop plans of action. Experience. Use learner experience as a basis for examples and application. Readiness. Develop instruction based on the learner's interests and competencies. Specialized training to meet. Features of extrinsic motivation. Provides clear expectations. Give corrective feedback. Provide valuable rewards. Make rewards available. Orientation to learning. Problem-centered instead of subject-centered. Applications over theory. Lectures. Learning comes from others, not just the instructor. As a general rule, teachers need to use as many of the intrinsic suggestions as possible while recognizing that not all students will be appropriately motivated by them. The extrinsic suggestions will work, but it must be remembered that they do so only as long as the student is under the control of the teacher. When outside of that control, unless the desired goals and behaviors have been internalized, the learner will seize the desired behavior and operate according to his or her internal standards or other external factors. Advantages and disadvantages of motivation types. Motivation provides us with energy to pursue outcomes. The energy may come from an inside source or an outside source. These sources can be defined as either intrinsic or intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation lies outside of the individual and the task being performed, whereas intrinsic motivation lies within the individual and the task. The task is found to be enjoyable and worthwhile alone. There are several advantages and disadvantages of each type of motivation. Advantages of intrinsic motivation: 1. Long-lasting. 2. Self-sustaining. 3. Focuses on the subject rather than the reward or punishment. Disadvantages of intrinsic motivation: slow to change behavior, requires lengthy preparation and special attention. A variety of approaches may be needed to motivate students. Advantages of extrinsic motivation: quickly changes behavior, requires little effort or preparation, requires a knowledge of the student. Disadvantages of extrinsic motivation: provides distraction from learning, difficulty in determining appropriate rewards and punishment, ineffective after a long period of time. Application of motivation and emotion in various human settings. It is important to note that there are different impacts of motivation for learning among human beings. In any situation an individual finds himself or herself, he or she may decide to approach lessons to be learned from either deep or surface learning inclinations. And this learning inclination will go a long way in determining whether learning has taken place and to what extent will there be positive or negative changes in the person. Advantages of emotion. Some of the advantages of emotion include: to mate, replicate genes, raise young successfully, perpetuation of genes, to protect self until mating and production are over, to feed and maintain body, keeping fit for reproduction. 2. Social in signaling about attitude change. 3. Behavioral flexibility. 4. Information processing. 5. To maintain social relationships. Summary of study session. In this study session, you have learned about the synergy of motivation and emotions, and it was said that motivation can be grouped under two categories: intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Lastly, the application of motivation and emotion in human setting was also discussed. We have come to the end of study session 9. Thank you.